Today's lesson is on solving square root equations, and we'll have 2 lessons on this today and tomorrow. So our first equation is the square root of x minus 1 equals 3. And remember, our goal when solving is to get x by itself. Well, right now x and the minus 1 are underneath the square root. So you need to get rid of the square root. Well, the opposite of taking a square root is to square. So I'm going to square both sides. Well, the whole point of squaring was so that the square root and the square would cancel. So I'm left with x minus 1. 3 squared is 9. Add 1 to both sides and x equals 10. The biggest thing you have to remember out of these is you always have to check your answers. Now, I know math teachers say that a lot, to check your answers, but on square root equations, there are such things as extraneous solutions, meaning you can get a solution when you solve it algebraically, but when you plug it back in, it does not make the equation true. So you always have to check your answers when you're doing square root equations, because you could get an extraneous solution. An extraneous solution is a solution that you get algebraically but does not make the original equation true. Alright, so let's plug back in 10 to the original equation. So it would be the square root of 10 minus 1 equals 3. Well, 10 minus 1 is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So that does work. So x equals 10 is my answer. Okay, let's do another one. Number 2, 12 plus the square root of 2x minus 1 equals 4. Okay, you want to get the square root by itself first. So you want to isolate the square root. On number 1, the square root was already by itself. So we want to get the square root by itself, so you have to move the 12 first. Well, this is adding 12, so we need to subtract 12. So I get the square root of 2x minus 1 equals negative 8. And then I'm going to get rid of my square root by squaring both sides. So square root and the square cancel. So I'm left with 2x minus 1 equals 64. Then you're going to add 1 to both sides, and then divide by 2. So x is 65 over 2. Alright, so we have to check our answer. So let's go back and plug it into the original equation. 12 plus the square root of 2 times 65 over 2 minus 1 equals 4. Alright, well, here your 2's cancel, or you could put it in your calculator. So you get 65 minus 1, which is 64. Square root of 64 is 8. And 12 plus 8 does not equal 4. So this solution does not work. So there's actually no solution to this problem. When you are using Delta Math for your assignment, you don't type in no solution, you put in an empty set of brackets. An empty set of brackets is how Delta Math does no solution. Okay, alright, let's do a few more. Number 3, 2, square root 3x plus 4 plus 1 equals 15. Alright, so you have to get the square root by itself first. So pretend I had something like this. 2 star plus 1 equals 15. So if I was trying to get the star by itself, I would subtract 1. So that leaves me with 2 star equals 14. And I would divide by 2, and I would get star equals 7. Okay, well remember the star was the square root of 3x plus 4. So 3x, square root of 3x plus 4 equals 7. To get rid of the square root, you square both sides. So 3x plus 4 equals 49. Subtract 4. 3x equals 45. Divide by 3. And x is 15. Alright, you've got to check your answer. So when I plug it back in, 2 square root 3 times 15 plus 4 plus 1 equals 15. Let's see if that's true. 3 times 15 is 45 plus 4 is 49. So 2 square root 49 plus 1 equals 15. Square root of 49 is 7. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1 is 15. So that is true. So x equals 15 is your answer. Okay. Alright, number 4. Square root of 2x minus 3 minus 7 equals 0. So you've got to get the square root by itself first, so add 7 to both sides. So I get the square root of 2x minus 3 equals 7. Now I can get rid of the square root by squaring both sides. So square root and square cancel. So 2x minus 3 equals 49. Remember, you can pause this video at any time. You can go back and rewatch an individual problem. So 2x equals 52. Divide by 2. And x is 26. Alright, let's go back in and check that. So square root of 2 times 26 minus 3 minus 7 equals 0. Alright, 2 times 26 was 52, minus 3 is 49. Square root of 49 is 7, 7 minus 7 is 0. So x equals 26 is a solution. Okay. Alright, number 5. Square root of x plus 7 equals x plus 1. Alright, the square root is already by itself, so I can go ahead and square both sides. Here's where you have to be really, really careful though. Here, the square root and the square cancel, so you're left with x plus 7. But here, when you have x plus 1 squared, you have to write it twice and do the lobster claw. Okay, you can't take a shortcut here, so you have to write it twice and do the lobster claw. So x times x is x squared, x times 1 is 1x, and then 1 times x is x, and 1 times 1 is 1. So that leaves me with x plus 7 equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. Alright, we've done these before. Remember, you need to get everything on one side. And I like to move everything towards the x squared. So I'm going to subtract x, and I'm going to subtract 7. So that leaves me with x squared, 1x, and negative 6. Okay? These will always factor, but if you hate factoring, the quadratic formula also always works. I think factoring is a lot easier, but the quadratic formula always works as well. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Alright, so I'm going to factor it. 2 sets of parentheses, x and x. I need 2 things that multiply to give me negative 6, so negative 3 and 2, or 3 and negative 2, and they need to add to give me positive 1. So this is my combination right here, so plus 3 minus 2, And then you're going to set these equal to 0 to finish solving it. So x is -3 and x is 2. Alright, I wish we were done, but we have to check both these answers. Alright, so I'm going to plug in -3 first. So if you go back to your original, it would be square root -3 plus 7 equals -3 plus 1. That was my original equation. -3 plus 7 is 4, so we've got the square root of 4 on this side. -3 plus 1 is -2. Well, the square root of 4 is 2. You do not do plus or minus in this case. So the square root of 4 is +2, so this is not true. So this is actually an extraneous solution. -3 is an extraneous solution. Alright, let's try 2. 2 doesn't have to work. The answer could be no solution, but 2 might work, so let's check it. Square root of 2 plus 7 equals 2 plus 1. Well, 2 plus 7 is 9, square root of 9. 2 plus 1 is 3, square root of 9 is 3, and that works. So 2 is your only answer. Okay. Alright, number 6. Let me actually start a new piece of paper. Alright, number 6. We have 8 total examples. So number 6, square root 2x plus 2 equals x minus 3. Alright, the square root's by itself, so I can go ahead and square both sides. Square root and the square cancel. Here you have to write it twice and do the lobster claw. So x squared minus 3x plus 9. So I was doing 2x plus 2 equals x squared. Combine like terms, -6x plus 9. Alright, you want to move everything to one side. So I'm going to subtract 2x, and I'm going to subtract 2, because when it crosses the equals, they change signs. So I am left with x squared, -6x minus 2x is -8x. 9 minus 2 is 7. Alright, you can factor or do the quadratic formula on this step. Alright, so when you factor it, x and x, things that multiply to give you 7, 7 and 1, well, that adds to give you +8, and I need -8. So I'm going to do -7 and -1. -7 times -1 is +7, and when you add them, you get -8. So -7 minus 1, set them both equal to 0, and so you'll get x equals +7, x equals 1. And now we have to check our answers. Alright, so I'm going to plug in 7 first. Square root of 2 times 7 plus 2 equals 7 minus 3. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16, so I get the square root of 16. 7 minus 3 is 4. Square root of 16 is 4, so that one works. So x equals 7 is a solution. Alright, now I'm going to plug in 1. Square root of 2 times 1 plus 2 equals 1 minus 3. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4, so you get the square root of 4 equals -2, and the square root of 4 is +2. So that does not work. So x equals 1 is an extraneous solution. It is not what we want as our answer. We want 7. Alright, 2 more. Number 7, square root of x plus 7 equals x plus 5. Alright, the square root's already by itself, so I can go ahead and square both sides. Square root and square cancel. Here I'm going to write it twice and lobster claw, so I get x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25. So that is x squared plus 10x plus 25. And I've got to move these things to the other side, so I'm going to subtract x and subtract 7. And then I'm going to factor it. So things that multiply to give me 18, 9 and 2, 6 and 3. So 9 and 2 adds to give me 11, 6 and 3 adds to give me 9. So x plus 6, x plus 3. And so that gives me x is negative 6, x is negative 3. Alright, so let's check those. Let's plug them back in. So it would be the square root of negative 6 plus 7 equals negative 6 plus 5. Alright, negative 6 plus 7 is 1, so the square root of 1 equals negative 1, and that is not true. The square root of 1 is positive 1, so it does not work. And when you plug in negative 3, the square root of negative 3 plus 7 equals negative 3 plus 5. So I get square root of 4, and negative 3 plus 5 is 2, and so 2 equals 2, that works. So x equals negative 3 is my answer. Negative 6 is an extraneous solution. And last one, number 8. Square root of 3x plus 7 minus x equals 3. Alright, well remember, on all of these, you always have to get the square root by itself first. So we need to move this x to the other side. So it becomes positive x plus 3. Now I can square both sides. So the square root and the square cancel, so I'm left with 3x plus 7 equals, you've got to write it twice and do the lobster claw. That gives you x squared plus 6x plus 9. I went ahead and combined like terms in my head. So I'm going to move the 3x over, subtract 3x, subtract 7. So it leaves you with x squared plus 3x plus 2. And that factors to x and x, 2 and 1. So you get x is negative 2, x is negative 1. And let me plug negative 2 back into the original. Here's the original. So square root 3 times negative 2 plus 7 minus negative 2 equals 3. So this would turn into a plus. Okay, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6 plus 1. Sorry, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6 plus 7 is 1. So you get the square root of 1 plus 2 equals 3. Square root of 1 is 1 plus 2, so you get 3 equals 3. So that works. So negative 2 is one of our answers. Alright, and let's check negative 1. 3 times negative 1 plus 7 minus negative 1 equals 3. So this turns into a plus. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And then plus 7 gives you 4. So the square root of 4 plus 1 equals 3. Square root of 4 is 2. Plus 1 equals 3. So 3 equals 3. Yep, that's true. So both of them are your answer. So if you were going to put this answer into Delta Math, you would use brackets and you would do negative 2, comma, negative 1. Alright, please email me with any questions.